Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. So excited that you could join us. We have a lot of people signing in. We have a few trivia questions as we're waiting to get started. So just enter them into the chat, your answers, and you will be eligible to win one of Aimee's new books when they come out. So we'll be giving 2 away. So welcome, everybody. Okay, we have a lot of different answers. Okay, we're going to the next trivia question. This lovely fish, what's its nickname?
Oh, this is one of my favorites.
Do you like that one?
Mm-hmm. This was cut.
Hi, everybody. No, everybody, welcome. Welcome. This is Nature Trivia. Just put your answers into the chat room and we will randomly draw 2 of you to win a book of the correct answers, of course. Okay, we'll get started in another minute. People are still coming in. Okay, what's the plural of octopus? Put it in the chat. Oh, interesting. See all these answers piling in.
Really interesting.
Okay, and then last question. Oh no, we might have 2. Which one is a monarch butterfly and which one is a viceroy?
Ooh, that's a tricky.
This is very tricky, but it's very easy once you know the little trick. Okay, everyone. 30 more seconds. Cool. It's fun to watch the A's and the B's. And last one. Okay. When you think about a male honeybee or a drone, which of the following don't they have?
I don't know about this one.
I was going to show a photo and then that would give it away maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we're getting close here. Welcome everybody to the webinar. We're just doing little trivia to get started before we dive in. Okay, so here are the answers. See how you did. And also, if you can type in where you're from, where you're calling in from, your name, your organization, so that Aimee and Ann and I and Gabby can get a sense of where everybody is. It's so hard not to see all your faces. But welcome to today's webinar. And we will give out 2 books from Aimee to 2 of the random trivia players. So welcome everybody. It's nice to see where all you're coming from. And for those of you I don't know, my name is Judy Browse. I'm the Executive Director of the North American Association for Environmental Education. And we are so excited today to have this webinar and looking at nature as an inspiration and transformation, an introduction to nature poetry. And many of you sent in questions. They've been fantastic, and we will get to all of those. And we do know that we are in a very special time during this virus. And I know it's really tough for so many people that are on this call. And given all the closures and the layoffs and the stress from working at home and with your kids online and trying to learn with parents, and in spite of that, you all are doing so many wonderful creative things. So we really appreciate all you're doing and the fact that you're spending some time with us today. And I think you're going to find it really, really valuable. And given what everybody is experiencing, I'm really excited that we have Aimee Nezhukumatathil with us today to help us use nature as a source of inspiration and fire up all our creative juices. As a society, we've actually seen how nature has become even more important as a source of joy, of learning, of meditation, of finding out more about the world around us. And there have been lots of articles about kids getting outside more, parents getting outside more kids as birders, more adults as hikers. It's been really wonderful to see the power of nature during a time like this. And we're really excited that Aimee's going to help us talk about nature poetry during this time. And I'll introduce Aimee in a minute, but just wanted to remind everybody that this is part of NAAEE's webinar series. and we are bringing new ideas to the field, new speakers, new ways to think about things, especially during this crisis, but also just things that can help us in the future. And we've been holding more webinars during this time because all of you have asked for different topics and different ideas, and we're really happy you could join us. We also want to thank our affiliate co-hosts who have been wonderful and have been spreading the word about these webinars, and we encourage you to check out your state, regional, provincial affiliate. And next webinar up is Angela Park. Many of you know Angela, and it's all about centering equity and inclusion during this crisis and beyond, and Angela is wonderful. So keep an eye out for that, May 28th, 3 to 4:15. We also know that you have been on a million virtual calls, and we know how tiring it can be. And we also know that your rooms all look like this, as mine does, on the dining room table. But we still want to make sure you know how to communicate. Everybody is muted. You can see that only the panelists have video on, but you can communicate with us through the chat. So you can either send a message to the panelists only, or you can send a message to everyone. Just do the click down. And please type any other resources, ideas, questions in the chat box, and we'll ask Aimee as many as we can through this webinar. And you'll get a copy of the chat, the slides, and the recording, which is fantastic. And you'll also have, we have live captioning for this webinar for anyone that has trouble with the audio. That will come out in the recording, and really want to thank Gabby for her help with doing the captioning. Thank you, Gabby. I also want to thank Anne, who many of you know, who is our guru of webinars, but also actually our professional development director and the manager of EE360. She's here to help as well. And together we'll be screening the questions and helping Aimee. And now the best part of this entire day is going to be introducing Aimee and hearing from Aimee. So I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to pull out a few notes here, but I'm really excited to introduce the talented and creative Aimee Nezhukumatathil. She's a professor of English at the University of Mississippi, where she teaches creative writing and environmental literature. As many of you know, she's quite an amazing writer and poet, and she's a lover of nature. And she's also been such a great friend to NAAEE, and her keynote was a highlight of our conference in Madison, Wisconsin. And one of the participants wrote to us saying, "This is the best keynote ever. My dream is to take a course with Aimee." So I hope that person is with us today and getting another chance to interact with Aimee. But for those of you who don't know Aimee, she was born in Chicago to a Filipino mother and father from South India. She attended The Ohio State University, go Buckeyes, where she received her BA in English and her MFA in poetry and creative nonfiction. And she was then awarded a poetry fellowship at the Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing at Madison, Wisconsin. Her newest collection of poems is Oceanic, and she is also the author of the new book coming out on illustrated nature essays called The World of Wonders in Praise of Fireflies, Whale Sharks, and Other Astonishments. She's also written several poetry collections which are on the screen. She's won 1 million awards, and some of her books have some of the best titles ever. She's also the poetry editor of Orion Magazine, and her poems have appeared in 2 Best American Poetry Series, American Poetry Review, Plowshares, the New York Times, and so many others. And she has so many honors, including a poetry fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Pushcart Prize. And she is always at work on more essays and more poems, and as she said, always more poems. We are so excited to have Aimee with us today, so let's give her a very virtual welcome. Take it away, Aimee.
All right. Thank you so much, Judy and Anne. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be here. As the chat was just scrolling through a mile a minute, I was seeing so many familiar names and even better names I've never even seen before. So from all over the planet, which is blowing my mind. So I wanted to say a big, big, big thank you to NAAEE. And Judy, you've been such a dear friend. Thank you, thank you. I have a jam-packed webinar for you today because I think, as Judy said, we have, I'm gesturing to Judy like you're right here in my living room, in my office, Judy. I want this webinar to be a place of comfort, of joy, of small delights. And I want you to know that we're all in this together as well. And I want you to know that this is hard. This is super hard for me. And I want you to know that I don't have the answers. I think it's important for you to know that as well. And my close friends know that I'm coming from a place of great sadness. I have a smile on my face now because I love, love, love teaching, and I love sharing writing strategies, but I'm deeply sad. I miss my parents immensely. I hate what's happening to our kids all over the place who are kind of stuck in this little a bubble of an environment, you know, and I hate that there's so much just meanness, you know, around. So I feel like all of that being inside is really, really hard. So what I want to do today is to give you what I call small starts. Like Judy mentioned, I have a jam-packed PowerPoint, and I don't usually, my students know I don't usually teach with a PowerPoint, but I wanted to make sure that you have as much info as possible. So don't feel bad if you don't catch everything written down. I think, is that right, Judy or Ann? The participants will get the PowerPoint slides after?
Yes, that's right. The slides as well as the recording.
Great, and I'm gonna have a bunch of other resources I'm gonna send on a Word document to you. I firmly believe I want this to be something that you can come back to again and again from a place of distress or a place of joy. And to know that we can make things small steps at a time for this as well. All right, so without further ado, and I have a whole list here of questions that you all had sent in. I'm not sure if we'll get to every single one, but I'm gonna try my best, all right? I wanted to give an extra shout out though to a very special 15-year-old right here in Oxford, Mississippi, and that's Nora Bruce. She's a writer and a birdwatcher extraordinaire, so I just want to thank her for joining. I think we have people as young as 8 here, all the way on up. So a special shout out, especially to the kids here who are joining us. All right, let me switch over now. I'm going to, and again, this is very different than my usual teaching style. I usually have handouts, things like that. So I'm going to be switching screens off for a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of, I think you'll be able to hear me. Is that right, Anne? As I'm going over my PowerPoint. And then I'll switch back and forth for you as well. All right. And let me see here. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Let's go to the first one from one of my very, very favorite writers, not even nature writer, just writer in general. He passed away a few years ago, and I miss him dearly because I know he would have the right things to say at this time. And that is Brian Doyle. And let me see, do I have his newest? Yeah, his newest book is One Long River of Song. Some of you might know he has a very, he has several famous little short pieces. One of my favorites is Joyous Voladaris, about hummingbirds and hearts. But he has this quote that says, "The world is still stuffed with astonishments beyond our wildest imagining. Isn't that the most alluring sentence ever? Isn't that the sentence we should have pinned up on every bathroom mirror in the world, so we all see it first thing in the morning, every blessed day before we brush our extant chappers?" And I kind of really like that because honestly, you know, I want to just keep it real from you. Again, like, it's just, I don't know, depending on the hour, not even the day, depending on the hour, I could be found just weeping, wanting to punch a pillow, full of rage, full of sadness. And yet I feel like this, I keep coming back to this reminder, and definitely there's some days that are harder to feel this, to believe it than others. But I think, I don't know, I feel like if we just kind of keep remembering, I hate it when people say smile to me. I hate it when people say be happy, then I get the opposite of all those things. But I think when Brian Doyle is saying that the world is still stuffed with so many things that we don't yet know, and there's still so many more astonishments, that to me brings me joy without ever having someone say, "Now, Amy, you need to smile now," or "You need to be happy. You need to be writing about lovely things," you know, that kind of thing. That gives me hope, and also gets me more protective. Like, I want to get better to the place where we can go back out and explore again. I want us to be able to have a planet that's healthy for my children, for all of our children, that kind of thing. So I really love this, that it's not forcing us to be happy, but it's just a way to kind of set the tone for the rest of the exercises today. All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to read just a small little part. Again, this is not at all how I teach, but I wanted to give a small little excerpt from my newest essay collection. And I had to just put in, I love glass bangles so much. And I wanted to just share with you, those of you who don't know, not plastic, but glass, like actual glass bangles. My grandmother gave these to me when I was a little girl. And I think I really kind of credit her for always just making me attracted to color, like some sort of, I don't know, bower bird or something like that. But I'm going to read a little short thing and then we'll get right to the prompts. Who on earth would think to give solid glass bracelets to a 4-year-old? My eyes were as big as quarters when I opened the box of bangles sent by my Indian grandmother. She thought it was time. I loved them right away. The shock of color when I held my thin wrists up to the sunny window, the clink and chime when I ran, the deep drenched reds, blues, violets. Nothing else rang so bold or brilliant in a Chicago winter. Outside, drifts piled higher than a toddler in moon boots. My father shoveled snow off our roof for fear of a cave-in. But I had my bangles. I ran from room to room just to ring them. Be careful, my mother said. You'll cut yourself if they break. And when I finally grew tired, I'd lie on the floor of our living room and listen for the strange sounds of winter, the scream of icicles as they slid off the edge of the gutters, the vermiculite in the cool soil of a house plant begging for a drink. I held the bangles up to the ceiling light so I could fracture a rainbow across the room. So much power in a tiny bracelet of glass, the first time such radiance sprang from this little girl's hand. As an adult, I'm still so drawn to light-soaked color displays. Some of the planet's most vibrant light shows comes not from the land or air, but from the ocean. The pulse and undulation of the comb jelly, hundreds of thousands of cilia flash mini rainbows even in the darkest polar and tropical ocean zones. This zing of color is what tempts people all up and down the eastern coast of both Americas to gather walnut-sized comb jellies into their hands. But don't do this. Most are so delicate, thinner than the thinnest contact lens, that they will disintegrate in your palm. If you want to observe one up close, scoop it into a clear cup and take a look-see that way. And then, of course, please gently return it to the water. The comb jelly is a creature of delicacy. It doesn't sting, and it's actually not a jellyfish. It belongs to a whole other phylum, Ctenophora. Comb jellies can be as small as a single grain of rice, or they can grow to over 4 feet in width, large enough, in theory, to gobble up a plump second grader whole. But they won't, because they're too busy waving their hair-like cilia around, too busy eating various fish eggs, and too busy eating other comb jellies. When I see them in aquariums, I think of the first time I held my glass bangles up to the light. I have always been drawn to color, the hue and cry of joy, and I think perhaps it was because someone on the other side of the planet entrusted those bangles, that fragility to me when I was so young. What a waterworld comb jellies make, suspending their millions of rainbows, not in the sky, but in the ocean, sometimes so far away into the way down deep and dazzle that only pale creatures like anglerfish and gulper eels take notice, perhaps imagining for a brief moment the delicious luxury of what it's like to be warmed by the sun after a rain. All right, and that's a little piece from my essay called Comb Jelly. And in case you haven't seen one before, you'll have to look them up on YouTube or something. It's such a beautiful, beautiful sight to see these rainbows moving around. All right, here we go. Okay, Aimee, we get it. You find wonder in everything. What if I can't? I know the purchase of what maybe many of you have done here. Put your kids in front of a TV screen, lock yourself in the bathroom, put yourself in a room to get away from the rest of your household. I know that it is tough. And like I said before, it is tough for me too. This is not easy. What if you don't feel like it? What if the only thing you did today is take a shower? And sometimes maybe not even that, that's okay. I want you to know it's okay. One thing I have not seen from many people is to say that it's okay if you're not writing. To poet means to make. I want to say that again because I think a lot of times people forget that. To poet means to make. And sometimes you're making with words. Sometimes you make with flour and water or beads and string, but the writing is going to come. Sometimes you need to make other things so that the writing will come, but it will come, I promise. All right. So I just want you to kind of be aware of that as well. This is not the be all end all. This is not, if it doesn't happen for you today or tomorrow, it's not going to be like the end of the world. It just means you need rest. You need rest. And I think poets need rest. Writers need rest too. And I think people forget that sometimes, that we're just supposed to be putting work out there, hustling, getting things out there. That's not the case at all. And I want you to know that I'm aware of that. All right, let's switch gears just a little bit. And I'm going to read a poem by Pat Parker, who I've just in the last year or two, thanks to one of my colleagues here at the University of Mississippi, I'd heard of Pat Parker before, but I had not really dug into her work. And I don't know if she'd ever be labeled or want to be labeled as a nature poet in any way, shape, or form. But when she digs into the outdoors, I kind of like the unexpectedness of this. So I wanted to kind of share this little moment of kind of, it's almost like an anti-nature poem in some ways, or anti-feeling good poem, but I think you'll see ultimately it ends in a love poem. All right, to Linda. Sometimes I don't want to be a butterfly and fly dipping off trees and things. Would be a caterpillar wrapped in a cocoon, and you are the threads. So I kind of like that audacity that the speaker just comes right out and says, sometimes I don't want to be a butterfly. I don't want to be a bird. I don't want to do anything nice and lovely. It's maybe the unlovely stuff, or maybe the yucky, the harder things that you'd rather feel drawn to, especially now more than ever. I said that word, now more than ever. I can't stand that phrase. All right, here's the prompt. Is everyone ready? What I want you to do is to get, hopefully you have a notebook with you, pen or pencil. I wanna stop sharing just real quick so you can see my face. Can you all see my face? Yes. Okay, great. So I wanted you to know, so this does not require, what I love about writing is that it's one of the most accessible, cost-effective forms of art that you can make. All you need is a pencil, and I'm talking like a 30-cent notebook. This is spiraled round. If you're anything like me, you have a collection of fancy notebooks and beautiful moleskins or whatever. I do have a hardback. This is like $5. I think I got this from Target. It's a spiral. It's just a blank book. My students know this. I have them keep what's called a commonplace book so they can sketch as well as write. But by all means, Linda Barry uses a composition book. So that's all you need. And I use pencil. So I don't ever compose on the computer. I actually like hearing the ch-ch-ch and the scratch outs. I like being able to sketch things out. And I think now too, I always try to remind my kids, try to not be reliant on electricity for your art, I think that's a good reminder as well, that I think I see too often some people saying like, I need my computer. I can't really think without hearing the keyboard clack, and that's fine. And obviously if you need it for accessibility, that's a whole nother thing as well. I'm not talking to you on that. But I would say if you haven't, gone back to the old fashioned like pencil and notebook, and really don't be beholden to electricity. See what happens. It's also more portable that way too. So anytime if I forget a charger or anything like that, it's not that I can't write. I'm always able to write. So it's just kind of a good practice to have. Anyway, okay, I'm going to switch back to the prompt. Let me see here. All right, so what I would like you to do in your notebook or on a piece of paper is to make 2 columns, all right, 2 vertical columns. On one side, and these are just my notions. You can come up with your own words or not. I know many of you are nature educators, so I wanted to just immediately say like lovely nature and then yucky nature. That maybe is not the most professional grown-up thing, excuse me. So how about just lovely nature and not so lovely nature? Write the first 3 things that you can think of that would fit in each column. So for example, for lovely things, things that and it varies for everybody. What's lovely to me might be horrendous to you and vice versa. So for me, lovely nature, I'll say is a patch of red bee balm from my garden. A blue jay feather is so lovely to me, and a calm, clear sea at noon. All right, my yucky column, the not so pretty parts of nature. And again, this is just me. This is so subjective, and I'm aware of that, and that's encouraged. For me, I think a rotting armadillo carcass is not so great to look at or smell. That's just me. You might think it's cute. I don't know. I don't like shedded snake skin. I get itchy. I can almost conjure up hives thinking about it, and I won't do that for you. And the last one, if anybody, does anyone know Suriname toads, or have you seen this on, I don't know, a nature special, or maybe in real life? When they give birth, they emerge from holes in the mother's back. Like the mother, I think I have that phobia. I'm not really scared of anything, but I think I have that holes phobia. When there's a bunch, is it trichophobia? Something like that. When you're scared of like a pattern of holes in nature. I know that's an odd thing for a nature writer to say, but there you go. I'm keeping it real. I don't like that. It freaks me out. Anyway, these Suriname toads emerge from their mother's back. You'll have to check this out online and trust me on it. I don't like it. You, again, might think it's really cool. All right. See if you can come up with 3 things in each column: the lovely parts of nature, the not so lovely parts of nature, just so you could see what you're thinking, you know? Again, here's the thing. You're gonna hear me say this throughout the whole session. These are small starts, okay? Notice I'm not saying you need to have a full finished draft of an essay or a poem. That's not what I'm looking for here. This is not a normal writing situation, but I think what we can do is start small and work from there, okay? So using Pat Parker's poem as inspiration, write about something that you do like, something that you do find lovely. And then kind of flip it on its back and say like why you want nothing to do, why you with it, like why you detest it, why you want no part of this. So I would say like, I don't want at all to find a blue jay feather, or I don't want to be in a calm, clear sea at noon. I don't know. It's just a way to kind of, I feel like some of us have a lot of sadness and rage that we are not getting, being able to communicate in nature. And I think for kids and teens, this is also so important too, to have a place of safety and comfort that we can write about our rage. So I know it's weird because you're lying kind of in some ways, but be grumpy, be specific. Again, it's going to be hard because if you say, for example, if you love butterflies, monarch butterflies, now I'm telling you to write why you detest them. But I think after some time of just spending time free writing, go margin to margin. Don't even worry about line breaks right now. I think you'll find something else to be in awe of, something you wouldn't normally expect, like the threads of a cocoon. You know, that's probably not something immediately that the speaker would have chosen to communicate love, but it's finding something that's not the expected to demonstrate love. Okay, does that make sense? So again, just, I wanted to give you the kind of the beginning of this kind of prompt here, and you can use this for an essay, you can write this for just a little vignette, the beginnings of a poem, but just to kind of rage against something in nature and see by virtue of doing that, what else you find yourself falling in love with. Okay, maybe something you find yourself falling in love with something that's not your expected. All right, okay. let me stop my screen for just a little bit. All right. Yeah, I'm looking here on the chat. Oh no, someone's hearing Maroon 5 in the background. Who is that? That is definitely not me. So I don't know. That is okay, Bethany, you have won the best Zoom comment ever. That is definitely not me, so I have no idea. But yes, please mute your Maroon 5. All right. What I wanted to just mention too, because there's people from all writing backgrounds here, and I know I've been encouraging that on social media, that you do not need to be a professor or an educator to kind of do my poem starts or my writing starts. I wanted to just backtrack just a little bit why I'm calling these like these small starts. I want us to go back to just the beginnings of writing, and for me, I'm speaking mainly from poetry, but kind of also from essay writing as well. I also start all of my writing on the image level. And I think the word image is something that gets kind of confused or tossed out, and people don't kind of fully understand it. So I want to just say that image in poetry is language that conjures up a physical reaction. So that's all the senses, not just visual. So that's taste, touch, smell, sound, and of course the visual of sight, all right? What I tell my students all the time is to get to the specifics of a situation, or I'm sorry, to get to the universal, be specific. What I mean by that is the more images you include, the more universal it becomes. I think so often, a lot of times people say, well, I want to not be too specific about this part of the woods because I want everyone to imagine their own section of woods or their own, whatever the woods they want it to be, you know, that kind of thing. No, that makes the reader so far away and so distant. Again, the way to, and it's a generous impulse. I love the impulse that you want it to be everybody's, you know, you want it to be accessible for everybody. But the key is the more specific you are in a poem or an essay, the more the reader will actually feel like they're right there, or they're witnessing this thing, or they're feeling the same thing, that kind of thing. So I can't tell you enough how many times I thought, oh, if I write about my own culture, for example, my mother's Filipino, my father's Indian, no one will understand me unless they happen to be Indian or Filipino, you know, that kind of thing. And it's actually the opposite. The more specific I get about my culture, the more people realize, oh, that's kind of universal in some ways. So again, I just wanted to kind of hit on that. When I talk about images or small starts, I'm not just talking about visual, I'm talking about sounds and smells and tastes and that kind of thing. Yes, I see you over there in the back corner. I didn't realize. Sometimes he's so still. That is Haiku in the back corner in there. He is conked out. This is his nap time of the day, so which is a good thing. All right, I'm seeing here too, we're gonna have the Pat Parker poem back with the notes, so we'll get to that in a little bit. And I wanted to go to my next kind of prompt as well. I'm gonna share, I'm gonna leave here and share my screen one more time. Again, this is not normally how I teach. There's a lot here, but I want you to have just chock full of kind of beginnings. You know, I mentioned too about going back to the basics about keeping notebooks, keeping blank books, that kind of thing. If you are one of those people who has blank books around or an empty notebook because the semester or the school year got short, just designate any of those as what I call a wonder journal. And this is something that could be for kids, you know, like people who are just beginning to write, all the way up through grad students and beyond. You know, this is what I call low stakes writing. Even if you can't make a full poem or an essay, I want this to be a place for you to have curiosity and wondering about this planet. So again, I love this little quote here. It says from Voltaire, judge others by their questions, not their answers. For the grown-ups here, how many of you have been on a date where the person just doesn't seem to be curious about anything but themselves, or just really anything at all about the outdoors or just life in general. Yeah, I try not to be a judgmental person, but I actually have to agree on that. You can really tell a lot about a person about how curious they are about the world around them, or just even about other people, people who are not like them at all. Anyway, some unsolicited dating advice there. So yes, so this is very low stakes. Those of you who are saying, I can't write anything right now, see if you can come up with 3 wonders. Like, what do you wonder about the outdoors? And this is something I love doing this with high schoolers and younger, because I think their wonderings about the world are so beautiful and haunting and profound. And I think also too, I think you'll find that a lot of times, a lot of the wonderings from grown-ups are more practical or more like kind of scientific or research-based kind of things. So, so for example, I've tried this with kids before, and what they wonder is like, how do you know you've met your best friend? You know, which I think is so sweet. Or how do you know you found the, how do you know if you're an ocean person or a forest person? You know, things that really can't be researched. It's just questions kind of from the heart. So I just love having a place to put all these kind of research-based questions and all these heart questions all together. See if you can do, again, low stakes. If you can come up with 3 questions that you have, 3 wonderings about the world. So it could be something as kind of basic as like, how do leaves change color in the fall? Do you actually know how they change color? If you don't, write that down. You know, that could be something for you to kind of look up and research. Again, you don't need to do anything with these per se, but again, it's just so good in these fallow times where maybe you're not writing. These are ways that you can kind of hone in and really dig into the questions that you have. And that might be a way to step out into some writing. Okay, and again, it doesn't mean that you all have to become nature writers necessarily right now, but just maybe you have a character who is tracking hummingbirds, for example, on flying south, you know, that kind of thing. You have that knowledge because you were looking at that based on the wonders that you had written down in your wonder notebook. So see, again, like, here's the questions that I would just pose to you all is, what if you wrote down what you discovered after doing actual research, like actually looking it up, the answers? And then what if you just wrote down your guess? What if you had to answer it without doing any research at all? How would you explain what makes the sunset and sunrise pink or orange? That's an interesting prompt. Like, how do you answer that without having any scientific or research-based answers to that? You know, like, again, but it still somehow makes sense in a way. That's sometimes the best writing doesn't really have an answer. It just produces more questions. In fact, the poems and the essays that I love so much are ones that kind of pose questions that I didn't even know I needed to wonder about too. And I'm left closing the book and still being curious about that character or that mountain or that that little river that was just described. You know, that kind of thing. Like, I like having that not a closing, but almost an opening, which is weird to talk about for the ending of a piece of writing. But when you're having questions, when you're posing questions in a notebook, again, you don't have to answer these right away. You don't have to answer them today, tomorrow, anything like that. But I love the low stakes of it all, is that you just have simply a notebook full of questions that you can come back to. Okay, all right. I'm going to move on here. I'm going to go just a little bit faster because I want to make sure you all have, I can tackle some questions here. I told you I was going to be giving you so many prompts. You're not going to know what to do with all of this. Here's this. Okay, are you ready, folks? This is, and again, you're going to have all of these at the end. Don't worry about kind of writing these down unless something strikes you right away. You're going to have these at the end. I'm going to give you a bunch of opening lines. These can be to a poem, to an essay. It could be like a story too. Those of you who want to try story writings. And this can go, again, anywhere from elementary school all the way up. Is that I give you a set here, 1, 2, 3, over, I think 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, over 10 kind of facts. 10 facts from the animal world, all right? And I included humans in there as well. I didn't know that, for example, a sneeze comes out of your mouth at 100 miles an hour. That's kind of frightening and delightful all at once. anyway, I just kind of love this, like, how many of you knew that a giraffe's tongue is almost 2 feet long? These were all kind of answers. These are like kind of research answers that I figured out that based on my own wonder journal. I actually wondered, these are all things that I had wondered about and didn't know the answer to. And so these are the kind of the answers that I came up with. All right, so I'm gifting them to you here. Now, here's the thing. Any one of these, this is my gift to you, can be an opening line to a poem, a story, or an essay. And see what happens if you, and I'm going to give you a title. The twist here for this opening line is, what if you just kind of take one of these opening lines as a prompt? For example, like, oh, I don't know, the giant squid's eyes are about as tall as a gallon of milk. What if that's your opening line? And you just riff on that for a little bit. But here's the deal. I've got 2 titles for you. What if one of those titles was called First Love, and the other title is called simply Quarantine? Okay, so First Love is the one title to give you, and then the other one is called Quarantine. And obviously you can change up the titles later, but see what happens without mentioning the word love, for example, or quarantine in your poem or in your story or in your essay. See if we can kind of figure out, like, you know, it makes a real, let me backtrack for a little bit. It makes a difference what kinds of things you say if you're writing about first love, and then you start with a line, for example, only female mosquitoes bite. And then keep going on, keep going on, keep going on, all under the umbrella of first love. All right, do you see what I mean? And then see also what happens taking that same line and see if you have the title Quarantine and the first line is only female mosquitoes bite. Now, where do you go from there? If the overall umbrella that you're working under is the notion of being quarantined, you know? So see what happens. I love this exercise because, again, small stakes. I'm gifting you a title and I'm gifting you the first line to something. And you can kind of, the permutations are endless there. You can do each one of these opening lines with 2 different titles and see what happens from there. Okay, so I think my favorite one, what do you guys think is your favorite one here? Something that you didn't know. I love the, I guess I didn't know, I knew they run fast, but I did not know that that hippos can run as fast as people. So that's slightly terrifying as well, and also brings me delight. All right, now the last thing I want to do, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. One last big prompt is another journal topic. Again, these are not full on, I want these to be low stakes. I promise so many people on social media that you're going to find something to write about. You're going to find some little opening or doorway to kind of sketch or write. And don't worry for now, for the poets out there, don't worry about line breaks. Just write margin to margin. Get that pen out of your drawer that you've been kind of putting aside. Find a, maybe if you have the means, buy a fancy pen or buy like your favorite pencil. This is my brand new Waxwing pencil. I'm sorry, Waxwing, one of my favorite journals, Blackwing pencil. And I just love the way the graphite is on a blank sheet of paper. That brings me so much joy, and I'm willing to forego other things so that I can buy these pencils, but that's just me. Again, pen and pencil, that's all you need. What if you designated one of your journals, or just like 1 page a day, maybe once a week even if you do this like once a month, at the end of the year, you have 12 beautiful sheets of paper, and I'm calling them the Sky Journal. So in a sky journal, it's nothing fancy again, but it's just your pure observations about the sky. I know many of us are trapped indoors in maybe like apartment complexes where you don't have a yard. I have a very small yard out here, but I know many of you don't have that and are just feeling like you need to, I don't know, you can look out a window, and I feel like that's something huge, and I feel like that also gives me solace, and it soothes me a little bit to make notices or to make recordings, written recordings of what I'm observing at this time. And again, I'm not doing it with the intent, I'm now going to write about the moon today. That's not it at all. But I find that when I'm writing by hand, I find that oh, I had no intention about writing about the moon or clouds, for example, but something about my mom will pop up, or something about the first time I lost a tooth, or the first dance I was ever invited to, something like that. So this is just something called the Sky Journal. See if you can record the day or time of when you notice the moon. If you don't know what phase it is right now, look that up on your phone or on your laptop or something like that. If you don't know all the phases, if you don't know the difference between a gibbous and a gibbon moon, you know, that kind of thing, like look those up. Sketch them out in your notebook, maybe even. Or you can make a cloud report. Note the day and the time. Oops. You can sketch the clouds. Again, you could this is something to do while we're inside. That's, again, it's not necessarily writing, but you could teach yourself to identify 8 basic cloud shapes. Everybody could do that. 8 basic cloud shapes. Look them up if you don't know them already. But what a cool and wonderful thing to be able to know the difference between cirrus and cumulonimbus, that kind of thing. Sketch them to help you remember. All right, and then the last idea for the Sky Journal is to make a sunset report. Even if you don't feel like writing anything else, maybe see what happens when you make note of what you see during crepuscular hour, you know, during the crepuscular hour, that twilight time. What do you hear at sunset? What do you smell? What about at sunrise? Maybe you're more of a morning person. I am not. So I almost never see sunrise unless I'm working and still up from the night before. But again, these are low stakes writing exercises that anybody of all backgrounds can do. All right. And that's kind of it. I'm going to wrap that up right now. This is, I would say that, again, this is important to know that this is super hard. If you're not getting full drafts of things right now, that's a-okay. You'll see here, I wanted to include a little picture of myself, the exact year that I talked about in the comb jelly exercise. So imagine this little girl with comb jelly, or sorry, with glass bangles on her wrist. I think my mom always forced me to take them off when I went outside. But again, my main things that I would say to you is get comfort when you sit down to write, like a warm drink, a good pen or pencil, a notebook. Start small, go with that image, and then ask questions. Be curious. Don't worry about coming up with an answer. I don't have the answers. I think many of us don't have answers for so many things right now, and that's okay. Part of the best writing I see is just being able to share what your questions are and feel, and having us feel less alone in the world, knowing that someone is wondering these things too. All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop my screen for right now, and I will just open it up to questions. I have some questions here. As they're kind of coming in through the chat, feel free to pose your questions there. I know some of you might have to run, so that's fine. Again, you're gonna get the transcript, but I wanted to shout out this book in particular. Oh, everything's backwards, but I'm gonna put this on a Word doc for you. It's called The Curious Nature Guide, Exploring the Natural Wonders All Around You. For my grad students, I almost got this book and then I got something else. It was a drawing book. But this is, it's kind of what I love about this is that you don't have to have any drawing experience. You don't have to have any writing experience. And yet you feel like a champion when you're going through all of these moments here. I love how it asks you to describe all the colors you see in like one 9-hour period, you know, if you can remember, or it's just, oh, it's only backwards for me. Oh, good. It shows you how to make maps of places that you've been to and maybe you can't visit anymore. So it's a way to kind of go around the sadness. It helps you learn about trees and plants. It's a great like beginner's guide. And also those of you who are experts in nature, I find that you will be opened up to say, oh gosh, now that's how I draw a magnolia bud, that kind of thing. So The Curious Nature Guide is one I would recommend. One Long River of Song by Brian Doyle. These are shorter books. I know many of us say that we have shorter attention spans right now. These are all short essays, and I have to shout out two of my other collections from my dear buddies, Ross Gay, Book of Delights, and then also Heating and Cooling. They're not what I would call nature books per se, but they're short for those of you who are feeling like you can't sustain a full-on narrative right now. And I think students will love them so much. Also, from Grey Wolf. This is a poetry book that it's on my desk. I just love it so much. I find something new in it all the time. It's called New Poets of Native Nations. I think it's crazy to talk about nature writing without talking about Native Americans, and their beautiful, beautiful poems that are in this book are so enriching. And I feel like I could at least read a poem, even if I'm not reading a full-on novel. So there's that. And then lastly, if you just miss being in parks, this just came out from Copper Canyon, called The Park. And it talks about parks in Europe, parks here in the States, Central Park, all of that stuff. It makes me swoon, so I would caution you because I just miss being in parks. So there's that. And yes, someone had mentioned braiding sweetgrass. Oh my goodness, braiding sweetgrass is like, it's not here because it's on my nightstand in my bedroom. So, oh my goodness, I just realized my dog got up and I thought something and I was like, what is that dead animal near my door? That's haiku there. So anyway, and yes, Black Nature. I don't have Black Nature here with us, Manal, otherwise I would. It's left in my office on campus. So I actually just taught that last semester. Camille Dungy is wonderful if you're looking for a nature writer who just really showcases such beauty, and talk about somebody who also is unafraid to bring out the starkness of what it means to be a Black woman in America outdoors, and how safe or not safe she feels with that in mind. So anyway, I see there's so many great recommendations here on the side, so I hope you're taking note of that. Yeah, anything else? Other questions?
So Aimee, one of the questions that came in is, how do you personify nature without over sentimentalizing or anthropomorphizing?
You know, I think maybe I'm the wrong person to ask on that, because I think it's okay to anthropomorphize. I mean, I think as with anything in poetry, a little goes a long way. You know, I think of them as like spices, right? Like I tell my students, you don't want to have like cute cats running in the forest and the forest is whispering to each other. And otherwise it just seems like you're walking in on the set of Alice in Wonderland. But maybe that's what you want, you know? I don't know, I feel, I'm hesitant to even say don't do XYZ in a poem, because maybe, I mean, we're staying at home right now. If you want to anthropomorphize, go for it. Some of the best like ad campaigns in the country, I mean, Mickey Mouse is anthropomorphized and he's one of the most beloved characters out there. So I just feel like go with it. You can always dial it back in revisions, but I'm so much more of the mindset of just, if you feel like anthropomorphizing, dang it, do it. Especially, you know, I feel like as a writer of color too, I've been taught all my life of here's what's not to do, or here's not what's proper. And I'm just so done with that. I'm here to tell you, like, go write the kind of nature writing that you want to see, that you haven't seen before. I know one of the questions someone else posted was, as a woman of color with no MFA, I'd appreciate your thoughts on representation and nature writing. And as you can imagine, I have a lot to say on that, but I don't want to take up too much time. But I wanted to give you, give all of you, especially the educators out here, this wonderful, wonderful quote from a children's writer, Linda Sue Park. She's a former Newbery Award winner. And she said, this was from a recent, I think, talk she gave. She said, as people of color, we can turn our weaknesses into sources of strength. We know different kinds of fear, and that gives us a deeper sense of courage. We've been hated more, so we have a deeper understanding of love. Write those things. And so what I love about that, what I find with writers like Camille Dungy, in books and Braiding Sweetgrass, I feel like there's just a well of emotions, of processing what it means to have brown skin and being able to be outdoors without being policed or without being surveilled, you know, that kind of thing. And yet I think you'll see in both of those writers, it comes from such a place of love. And I feel like there's so many people in the government who operate not from a sense of love or compassion. So I think one of the most radical things we can do is actually to fight back with extra compassion, with extra love and patience. I know that's not the be all end all, but I feel like that's one radical way we can do when they give us hate, to push back and celebrate the things that we love about being outside. And that's really radical, because brown people aren't supposed to enjoy being outside. It's a place that's very, that was not amenable to us for a long time. And I'm so excited about the writing that's coming out now. And I love just, why not celebrate what you love about this? And also know, as in the Pat Parker poem and the exercise, you can also write with rage and write with annoyances. And if you know what an invective is, you can write an invective against nature, or things that you're not pleased with about how humans treat nature. Write an invective poem so that you can corral your rage into a poem as well. Other things. Let me see. Oh yes, Tommy Pico's nature poems, so good. Things that are, oh my goodness, Amy Leach is so fantastic. Yes. Let me see. How do I spell that poem? I'm gonna put it in the chat here. Invectives, sorry, invectives. There's a great invective I teach all the time. It's by Diane Lockwood. And gosh, I should know this. I think it's called invective against, and I love them. So it's kind of funny, against bumblebee. I think you can find that poem online somewhere. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. She's not really hating bumblebees, but I think the speaker's not really hating bumblebees. I love bumblebees. But I think what students I find love about it is it's a place to let rage come out in a poem without it becoming just this unwieldy rant. So if you've never written an invective before, now is the time to do it as well. So. Yeah.
Amy, you said that you would be willing to stay after school for a little bit, right?
Sure.
To answer a few questions.
Absolutely.
So maybe we will, this is so fantastic. I hope you have been checking the chat, because so many people have been so inspired by everything that you've said, including, Wonder Journals and Moon Journal. It's just been fantastic. So thank you so much. And we do have more questions, so that if people want to stay after our short ending here, it would be wonderful to have a little more time with you, Amy. It's just so great to hear your voice and your thoughts. And these prompts are fantastic for now. So thank you so much. And before we go to the end, any final thoughts to everyone during this time?
I think the biggest thing we can do as educators and writers, and again, I do not have all the answers, but I would say, is to take care of yourself. And I'm saying this to myself as well. Coming from a person who doesn't sleep well. I don't think I've had a good solid week of sleep, let's be honest, since probably 2016. But I guess take care of ourselves so we could take care of others. And I would say, even if you are not feeling like you're writing anything that's worth it right now, if you are writing down what you love, or a color that shocked you, that made your heart skip a beat, I don't think that's not nothing. I think I'm gonna tear up here. I think it's so important to record how the moon moved us. I think it's important how to write about the first garden you were ever planted, or that you were ever in. And it doesn't have to be a finished poem. Who says that we have to have a finished poem or finished anything right now? But I think one thing that we can do is just to record what's out there, so that we don't forget. It's so easy to fall into despair. And I think it's worth it to work harder to record the beauty that is out there.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm going to turn this over to Anne. Oh my gosh, you just are so moving and so thoughtful and so creative. You've inspired all of us.
Thanks.
And take it away for the closing, and then we'll stay for a few minutes if you still have questions and you want to hear the answers. But Aimee, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Judy. This has been so wonderful. And thank you for everybody for joining us. I know how much just stopping your day in the middle of the day here to join me, but I hope you are just leaving with chock full of ideas, things to do in those empty notebooks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aimee. I know I personally have a ton of wonderful, delightful small starts to fill all of my empty notebooks, and they are all empty. But I just wanted to end here with a few announcements. I know we've got a lot of new folks that are new to our webinar series.
Yeah.
To remind everybody that yes, you'll all get the recording and the notes right after this webinar ends. And you can find any of our recorded webinars, our previous webinars, all on EE Pro under the Learning section. So check that out. We do have a number of wonderful webinars on deck. We will be hearing from Angela Park next week. She's going to be talking all about how do we think more about centering equity in our work as environmental educators during this time. And right after that, the first week of June, we will be hearing from a wonderful panel from our 30 Under 30 award winners, talking all about how are they going through this COVID time and pivoting their work to be online and virtual, and what does that look like for civic engagement, and what does that look like in particular for the youth that we work with. So that's going to be the first week of June, and we're going to be hearing a part 2, what does crisis communication look like in our work, from Kristen Grimm, also in June. So stay tuned for more information. We're always coming out with new webinars. And we're also coming out with many new resources for the field for all of you that are working from home right now, working virtually, pivoting your work to online. So many great resources can be found on our website. And if you have any suggestions for resources that should be on this list, we're always adding to it. You can send those resource ideas to me. And thank you for those of you who've already filled out the survey. We are looking for your feedback on how we can make this webinar series more useful for you. So let us know. We would love to hear from you. And that's all the updates we have. So we can spend the remaining few minutes or so tackling more questions. Aimee, if you're up for it.
Great. Yeah. I'm just scrolling through. First of all, what was that? Was that a chipmunk? That was the cutest thing.
Which one?
There was a slide that was maybe like, was it a squirrel?
This one.
Yes.
There you
So
go.
cute. What is that? Is that a hamster?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I want that. I think Haiku would have different opinion, but it's so sweet. Yeah, so there's a bunch of questions that are coming through here on the chat. And like I said, I printed off questions if you turn them in. But, I saw one thing here too, and I wanted to just clarify. There's something here, a terrific question from Elaine McManus. Hi, Elaine. It says here, when you say brown people aren't supposed to enjoy being outside, from whose perspective do you speak? I'm on a committee to increase diversity in nature. Yeah, no. I don't know if I misspoke or if somehow it didn't come clear. No, I'm not at all saying that brown people are not supposed to enjoy being outside. I'm saying, I mean to say that for a long time, simply, and I'm just speaking for myself, I can't, for example, speak on behalf of Camille or any of the poets in the New Poets of New Nations, that kind of thing. I'm just saying that when I was a little girl, I never saw anybody who even remotely looked like me in any of the nature books that I loved, be it through the hard science books that I just loved flipping through, and geology and how volcanoes worked and stuff like that. When I always turned to the back, it was always a white male scientist. And then when I had stories or poems about the outdoors, again, it was nobody that looked like me. So that's just me. I grew up in smaller kind of towns that had smaller libraries, but I also was never taught that. So I think just subliminally or directly, I was kind of taught that, oh, Asian Americans don't really go outside, or they don't appreciate nature, or they're not really welcome, honestly. And I had no language for that, and I didn't know what to do except for the fact that I kind of like so-called tucked my tail in and said, okay, well, this is maybe not for me. I'm not welcome here. When you don't see yourself represented in any books, any videos, any nature videos, nothing. Nobody had a host of anybody who was brown or Asian American or frankly under 50 seemingly. You just feel like you're not welcome there. And so that's kind of a hurt in my life. You know, that's kind of a hurt in my life. I think the writing that's out there, so I have a 7th grader and a 4th grader, and the writing that is out there now is incredibly diverse in terms, and I know that there's a long way to go, but the fact that any one of them can reach on a bookshelf and find stories featuring a rainbow cast of characters or someone in a wheelchair who's outside is incredible. That's huge to me. So I think just being able to teach those work, teach that there's people of all different sizes and shapes and abilities that are welcome outside. I think that's a huge way to kind of open up questions and curiosities of children and teens, and even, you know, grown-ups. I didn't turn to poetry till I was a junior in college. It opens them up with a way of thinking, maybe I could be outside too. Maybe I could write about my experiences outside. Maybe I could be a fly fisherman too, you know, a fly fisherwoman, you know, that kind of thing. So again, just being able to have that kind of background. So in no way, shape, or form did I mean that that brown folks are not supposed to be outside at all. I mean the exact opposite. I felt like I belonged outside. I still am the most comfortable outside, but the movies and books and materials and films that we always saw in high school never featured anybody that looked like me, not even close. So I think that's something to be aware of when you are selecting books for your libraries, when you are selecting poems and stories to share with your students as well, to make sure you include a wide array of people from all abilities as well. Yeah. Hope that clears it up, Elaine. And thank you for that really, really good question, because I would have been so sad if anybody thought that's what I meant to. So I apologize for that. Let me see, other questions here. Gratitude is the antidote for despair. I know, I wish when I'm in the darkest parts, when I'm feeling so sad and lonesome, I know that I should be grateful for so much. I know it. And sometimes it's just hard. It's hard to say, I know what I'm supposed to be feeling. I know I should be turning towards beauty and turning towards loveliness. And sometimes I don't feel like it. And that's when the invective is good. That's when writing about the not so pretty parts of nature feels good in some ways. So I think that's also important too, that it doesn't all have to be odes and in praise of this, you know. There's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of sadness. We had some bird drama here in our backyard with a young family of bluebirds, and that's not really a pretty and it's okay now, but we thought that we would lose a whole nest of little baby bluebirds, and that was really hard to see because we could hear their cries. And anyway, long story short, there's an evil nuthatch that was sneaking in and just jumping on their heads, but the nuthatch is gone now. So anyway, all this to say is that nature writing does not always have to be pretty, and it doesn't always have to be about lovely, sweet things. What else?
Aimee, what's your favorite tree?
Pardon?
Somebody asked, what's your favorite tree?
Oh, my favorite tree. Oh, you know, I think it's not native here, but I see them in Florida. And the first one I ever saw was in India, actually, is a banyan tree. Have you seen those banyan trees where they just drop roots? They have a giant branch. They're, you know, basically as wide as a kind of the first floor of a house, some of them. They drop roots from their branches. Yes, Sarah from Florida would know that very well. I just feel like it's just I don't know, in another lifetime, I feel like I could live underneath the banyan tree and just be so happy there, you know. But we just bought, I blame this on Ross, my friend Ross Gay. I just bought a redbud tree, and I had my husband plant it. I just love, they're the first trees that, well, birds love to nibble on their blossoms, but they're one of the first trees in spring, and I really needed that. It's one of Ross's favorite trees as well, but I just needed that little burst of pink this spring especially. So yeah. Let me see, share the prompts with others. I think we'll be Yeah, I mean, these prompts are not, I would say, like, if you're going to use these prompts in class, I would love to get credit for it, obviously. But by all means, they're yours now. This is my gift to, I know so many of the educators and folks who work in museums and teachers are in a precarious state right now. Don't know if they're returning in the fall or what, but these are yours. I'm so happy to work with NAAEE to do this for you all. So I know that there's some writers in here, but this is really for the educators as well. I would just ask to just receive a little credit on that on the bottom. But yes, I want this to be a place where you can feel creative in these prompts, as well as to share that creativity with your students as well. That would make me so, so happy. Let me see. Yeah, you know, someone is asking about hanging milk from banyan trees in South India. You know, I don't know. I'll have to ask my dad that. He's from Kerala. So I'm not sure. I've only seen them just a few times in my life, and mostly now when I see them, it's in Florida. So someone was asking too, the books that have the short pieces, that is Heating and Cooling and the Book of Delights. These are two, like, if you can't, it feels like you can't concentrate, those are the two. And then this one also, One Long River of Song, just kind of musings on family, the outdoors. There's a beautiful piece on 9/11. Brian Doyle, if you don't know his writing, that would be absolutely the place to start. I would say, let me see, there are, a couple people have asked tricks for getting students to stop and observe quietly. You know, I don't know how, actually I'd be curious to see from the educators how you deal with this. I most recently did this in a nature writing class, and then also in environmental literature. I told them they'll get it back and stuff, but it was the only way I could guarantee it. And I wish this wasn't the case, but I actually I had a little like kind of bag, a little tote bag. I collected all of their phones. Obviously I told them if they were expecting an emergency phone call, and surprise, there were no emergencies, but just for 30 minutes, I'm gonna keep their phone in a bag. And they all said, even my star students said it was supremely uncomfortable. And they didn't mean, oh, these are not terrible people. These are some of the best, the most open-hearted students on campus. They're the ones who willingly take environmental studies classes because they love them, you know. But they said they're so used to looking at their screen for the time, or just whatever text, or what to eat next, or something, you know. And they said they had to retrain themselves. There's no easy answer, except I would say from the mouths of my students to try little steps, because it's not going to happen overnight, but we did it over the course of a semester. And by the end, they were trained to do it. Or maybe by mid-semester, they were already trained. Small steps to kind of, you physically have to get away from the internet, physically. I mean, it's just getting to that point. I wish it wasn't so. And maybe that's not always, maybe that's not always a possibility. Maybe some people need to have their phones, but if you could do 20 minutes, if you could do 30 minutes, where you're just out looking out your window and observing the cloud shape, or seeing if you can find any Marias or the seas of the moon that you can find, just for 30 minutes. I think it's important to be able to be alone in your thoughts. I think for many of us, that was the hardest part. I'm an extrovert, I'm an introverted extrovert, but that was hard to be kind of alone in our thoughts for a little bit when stay at home happened. But I think for the students, yeah, I mean, I had to give them assignments where I just had to trust them and say 20 minutes, you need to stare at a tree, stare at the bark of a tree, sketch it. I also tell them, sketching things helps with not having to, you know, be reaching for your phone, that kind of thing, because they're so concentrating on rendering this okay. I think it was the fear of not wanting their flower to look so wild, and they wanted to look like a flower, so they were really concentrating on it. But I had to give them small moments where they could spend time looking and sketching, and then that expanded into writing and observing, and then finally they don't need to observe anything, they could just kind of write. But without the internet, it's so hard. So I wish I had a magical answer and wave the wand, but you know, my son is turning 13 in a couple weeks, and we've held out. He's been asking for a phone, asking for a phone. We've held off, and he claims he's one of two folks. Shout out to the Bruces as well. One of two folks in the entire 7th grade who doesn't have a phone, and I'm trying to fight that with everything I can to keep it that way. So we'll see. We'll see how long I can hold that.
Thank you, Aimee. That is so great. And any other questions? And Aimee, you could go on. We could listen to you forever.
I know. I do have one more question here that came in from someone that registered. You know, you speak about giraffes' tongues and giant squids and all sorts of wonderful creatures. Somebody asked, do you research various creatures and plants before you write about them, or are you already filled with all of this knowledge? How do you research your poems? How do you do that? You just know all this stuff.
Yes, that's such a good question. And I just realized too, there's like several people who wanted to know about research on my poems or my essays. Here's the thing, I've said it once in a while to like in a question and answer session. I always feel so nerdy saying it, but I think you all would appreciate this. My idea of a good time is actually sitting down and reading a book on ants, or, you know, the giant squid. I mean, half of this lower section here is books literally just on cephalopods. So that's my like recreation. Now, I don't do any of this. This is just me. This is not what I say everybody has to do. But so I read a lot about the natural world, and the kind of dirty secret I have is I actually read more about natural history and science than I do actual poems and novels and things like that. I don't know, I always just felt those were the first books I read. I didn't know who Dr. Seuss was. We didn't have books at home at first. I didn't know who Dr. Seuss was. I thought that was one of my mom's coworkers, you know. And so I love, so now I don't ever say, today I will write about the squid. It's almost always the opposite. Like, oh, I wanted to write about this guy who dissed me when I was 14. And suddenly some metaphor that happens to be about the squid pops up because I had read about it 6 years ago, you know? So if I want to verify things, obviously I do the research, but I actually do read an awful lot and watch a lot of documentaries. So it's kind of, it opens me up to having a different vocabulary than I would otherwise. If I read about fashion and books about the history of makeup and beauty, then I would have a lot of like fashion vocabulary, diction from the world of sewing and making fabric arts and things like that I just simply don't have, for example. So I feel like I have a lot of language from the world of geology, ornithology, all kinds of books of spiders and ants and bees and stuff, because that's kind of what I love too. So on my last slide, I said, just be curious, find out what is that thing that you're curious about, and just, I don't know, it sounds so silly. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but read and kind of, and if you can't read, just write small, start small, because those images, once you piece those images together, they will add up to something. I know they will. I've never not seen it happen, actually. So, yeah. Other things, let me see. Maybe one more question, Judy, does that sound fine?
Yes, that sounds fine. Do you have one, or do you want me to give you one of my list here?
Yeah, you know, I'm looking over at the list here. So there's so many good ones. Oh my goodness.
You know,
actually,
go ahead. You go.
Yeah, I do have one because I saw in the chat several people wrote this. My favorite form of writing, and some people have classified this into essays now, but I think it can kind of be both. Again, I don't say this is a poem, this is an essay. I love blurring genres and stuff. And it is called the Hibun. I'm putting it here. Oops, gosh, I can't spell. Hibun. So it's with the UN. That is my favorite form of writing ever. Like I wrote a piece on it for the Academy of American Poets. That is my go-to form. And what the question I'm getting a lot here is, have you ever stopped writing yourself? How do you start when you haven't been writing in a while? It is the haibun that saved me. And this happened actually after the birth of my first child, but it could be for this time. It could be getting laid off from work. It could be going through a divorce. It could be losing a parent. It could be getting married. Whatever shift, altering plate tectonic shift you might have in your life where you feel like you're not able to get anything down, the haibun is the form that I feel like it makes you, I don't have time to do an entire lesson here, but if you type in haibun and my last name, my whole like kind of lesson on it will pop up if you Google that. But I will say that it's a kind of a travel journal. It's a travel journal recording places that you've been, and then it ends with a haiku. So that's the 575. I feel like even when I'm exhausted, I think of those days where I wasn't sleeping, I had a newborn, I thought I'd never be able to write anything again. I could always manage a haibun. So, and that is simply to write a prose block of what you observe and what you notice. And it's just like a concentrated bouillon cube of imagery. So it's really, really concentrated. Then it ends with like a PS whisper of a haiku at the end. It's like, psst, I forgot to tell you one more thing. That's the haiku. I feel like you can make a haibun about your day of doing laundry. You know, you don't have to have a wild travel life, you know, and especially now we can't travel. You could absolutely make your day before. It's like a way to record your days in a travel journal form, and it gives you a specific form. You write a paragraph and a haiku. That's it, you're done. So I really kind of zipped through that, but if you're looking for more, you can look up more on the haibun online from other people as well. So, but that is absolutely the form. When students say they have writer's block, I say, no, I don't believe it. You try the haibun, you know, and 99.9% of the time, they're like, Aimee, you were right. This form it jolted me out of my desert of no writing, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, I would try the haibun.
What a great thing to leave us with, Aimee. Thank you so much. That concentrated bouillon. I love it.
Thank you all so much. This is so fantastic, and I really, really hope that you have now ideas on what to do with those blank notebooks sitting on a shelf. And I'm just so glad to be in contact with so many educators here. Thank you all so much. You're doing such good work. I'm so appreciative of you.
Thank you, Aimee, and we can't wait for your new essay book to come out. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
See y'all next time.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thanks.